So part 1 is finished. Well, I shouldn't say that. Part 1, the first rough draft is finished. So I want to get started on part 2 because part 2 sounded like it would be a lot of fun to write. I had this idea of starting part 2 with Rick finishing the tale of how he got the seed. Yeah. And that still sounds good. How much? A single gold sovereign. So we'll start with that. The amount of money. So we'll do ... For a single gold sovereign, Rick said, finishing his tale and handing the seed pouch, or we'll just say pouch, I can change that, and handing the pouch across the kitchen table. Or maybe he doesn't hand it. Maybe he just sets it down. How's it going? I just started, so no problems yet. Sliding. Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe he just sets it in the middle of the table. Either he hands it or he sets it down in the middle of the table. I'm just trying to think how I want the daughter to react, whether I want her to reach across and take it from him, or whether he would just set it there in the middle of the table. The whole family's there and they can all ooh and ah at it, because that's the next part of my idea. Admiring sounds from all the gathered family, plus a coincidental move from outside. Yeah, let me copy that. How large is that table? It should be large enough for a family of 5. So it would probably be a fairly standard size table. I'm thinking rectangular. I'll probably give it a little bit of... I'll give the table a little bit of character, probably. Where am I? Oh, I'm right here. I'm thinking about the table not being uniform, not being a uniform shape. Perhaps it's cut from a fallen tree that was struck by, how do you spell lightning? Lightning, or was sanded down from a door. Because it's a farm, they would be very economical with the things they use. The parents sit on either end and the children to the sides. Probably mom, dad at the heads of the table, and then the children handing the pouch across the kitchen table. Okay. Where he sets it down in the middle of the table. And then I wanted these oohs and ahs. I'll just say Rick basked in admiring Ooze. I don't know how to write ooze. Ooze and ahs. I mean, would it be in quotations? I guess it wouldn't be it would be oohs and ahs, right? Like that. What's the plan for the story? What's the elevator pitch? The plan is it's a kind of, although it wasn't intentional, it's kind of a Jack and the Beanstalk type story. Father buys, well, I think it's in the description. I wrote, a father brings home a magic seed, which could have global consequences. So he doesn't necessarily believe it's magical, and it could end up destroying the kingdom. As in crashing the economy? Well, basically, as in apocalyptic level event, possibly. But that's the end, and I'm still at the beginning. The story's going to change a lot as it goes along, probably. As I get to know these characters in this fantasy world, we'll see how much it changes. There's a very tentative idea that the magic seed was taken from a fallen kingdom. The kingdom fell because of these plants overgrowing everything. There's also an idea that the seed feeds on emotion. So happy family, happy plant, horrible family, horrible plant. You know, that's not a bad idea. Having it fall from a kingdom in the sky. I mean, there's so much I can do with it. Yeah, I mean, that definitely fits with the Jack and the Beanstalk idea. It makes me think of, if you've ever seen One Piece, there's a Sky Kingdom there, and there's a sort of giant vine, a giant beanstalk, I believe. Okay, so Rick basked in admiring oohs and ahs. I'm just going to type from his gathered family. A theme of poverty. There isn't. That's not something I thought about. I would say middle class, lower middle class, probably. It's a fantasy setting. I don't want them to be poor. That's not really the focus. Just focusing on the family and the plant and how they interact with each other. I don't know. The theme of poverty, obviously, it's a tried and true trope of writing. But did a spider just fall on me? What is that? Oh, wait. How does the seed affect the family? Does it split them apart emotionally? Yeah, that's going to come later. I haven't done much brainstorming about that part yet. I did a real quick brainstorm. Where did I put it? I thought it was right here. I guess I moved it. Oh, I moved it down here. I did a real quick brainstorm outline. Tension because the vines, there's lots of buds, but I mean, there definitely needs to be tension. Does it split them apart emotionally? That's a good question. Yeah, that'll be fun to explore because they would all react to it very differently, I think. The son imagines himself as a heroic figure. The father is just salt of the earth. No nonsense. The mother, I haven't explored her character yet. Maybe the plant is like mentally parasitic, could talk to the family and try to get them to feed it. Well, the idea for the story came from, the inspiration was my children, especially my teenage son, that he never stops eating. And I had the idea of Little Shop of Horrors, a plant monster that never stops eating, and also the movie Gremlins, if you know it. There could possibly be rules for this plant. And depending on whether you stick to the rules or break the rules, what's going to happen? And the line that popped into my head was, remembering to feed the monster was easy at first. So definitely an idea that they have to keep feeding this plant. Yeah, that's true. A literal money tree. Yeah, any kind of valuables would ratchet up the tension, because then they have to keep it a secret. They don't want other people to know about it. And I also have the idea that I was going to do two versions of the story. I was going to do one that was high fantasy and one that was magical realism. So the idea of it giving money and status to the family would be very fun to explore in the magical realism, because it would be our world and suddenly there's a plant that's giving money. That's a nice idea. Okay. I gotta try not to use my mouse wheel because it's very squeaky. But there's nothing I can do about it. Alright. So let's see. Rake fast in admiring oohs and ahs from his gathered family. Yeah, I like the idea of the horror. This was going to be a horror story, and it just so quickly immediately changed to optimistic. I can't help myself. It's so hard for me to write really dark stories. One of the rules is like it has to be fed exactly, but due to a family they miss it. Yeah, there would definitely be times, or the amount, or they could switch something. The son doesn't keep things organized well enough, and so two similar things are near each other. Two powders, two grains, two things that look very similar. Yeah, something like that. Fertilizer, or he grabs the wrong scoop. I mean, it could be so simple. It could just be that there's a scoop that they use for one and there's a scoop that they use for the other, and he uses a larger scoop and gives it way too much. Rick Bast. Yeah, and then I had this plus a coincidental move from outside, which left the girls giggling. Well, one point of tension could be, instead of the little daughter messing it up, it's her present, so I feel like she would really follow the rules and take care of it. Well, or she might be too excited and she gives it too much. But the older daughter might get a little bit jealous and sabotage the plant, not realizing that it's going to grow into this monster. Oh god. I'm spilling coffee. I got bugs dropping on me from the sky. Happening. Yeah, these are all great ideas. The thing is, okay, so right here, I do think it's good if he sets it in the middle of the table, and then the mom can say, the tree then is a metaphor for good family, the relationship between the mom, the crisis of playing older, and the stage of is a metaphor. I haven't thought that far ahead. There's definitely a growing component to it. There's a component of taking care. Yeah, exactly. It needs to be very tight. I mean, the inspiration of one of the things that I was looking at for this one was presenting the idea very early that Rick is he's a farmer. He's a man of habit and routine. So part of the plan is that it becomes another routine. Feeding it just becomes another mindless chore. That was something I wanted to explore. And that could be a good theme to explore. Does that then overlap to his family? Or there could be the contrast that even though he's doing these mindless chores, when it comes to his family, he always takes special care with them, and that's not a routine. See, I just said the opposite of what you're suggesting. We're going in completely different directions. I feel like all my ideas are the little angel on my shoulder, and all your ideas are the little devil on the shoulder. They're a little bit darker. A happy one or a cautionary tale. I think it's going to be a little bit of both. I think that's one of the things I was exploring during the brainstorm, trying to decide, because originally, yes, I was going to go dark, but it just wasn't coming to me naturally. Naturally, I'm happy and optimistic. I like a good ending, but I thought, well, maybe I'll leave it up in the air so that readers are left wondering what's going to happen. But yeah, these are all good. I'll probably, again, I'm going to write two different versions of the story. I wanted to do a magical realism version too, because this is all for the stream. So I wanted to show the process of writing the high fantasy story and the thought that goes into that, and how it's different if I'm writing a fantasy story that's set in our world. And so it could easily become much darker. That would be really good. That would be very good. Thanks for the follow. I hit my goal. I thought I hit it yesterday. The numbers are really weird. They don't match up. It's very strange. Yeah, I often feel like when I'm writing fantasy, it's a completely made up world, so it's very different from the magical realism. If I'm going to write another version that's in our world, then how would a modern day woman react to a plant growing and maybe her husband doesn't take it seriously? Yeah, she might be pack up her bags and leave, and then she comes back. Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Yeah, too dark or too bright. Um, it's funny because I've been reading a lot of dark fantasy. I just finished reading a bunch of Joe Abercrombie's books, which are dark. And I was reading Tad Williams. It's Tad Williams, right? His books are pretty dark. I mean, Joe Abercrombie, that's pretty dark. There's really no happy endings for any of the characters. And I love that. But at the same time, I'm not interested in writing like that. I would rather write kind of a happy story most of the time. Yeah, you got to have that gray area. I would say the novels I've been working on, they have that gray. That's something I've really been exploring in my writing. Because I feel like that's a really mind-blowing realization. As a kid, we read these fairy tales. Oh, this person's good, this person's bad. And at some point, we read that first story where, oh, wait, huh? Who who's good? I'm confused. Everyone seems to have good motives. That's true. There are not. There are not. Well, I think there are. I think there are happy stories. It's. I think we're still seeing George R. R. Martin's influence. I mean, we're seeing it with TV. We saw it with TV shows, with streaming shows. What's going to be the next Game of Thrones? And we're seeing it in the literary world, obviously. I mean, Brandon Sanderson, I would argue, writes very happy stories. You generally get a happy ending from his stories, and he's been steadily popular. And if anything, I'd say he's kind of on the rise right now, or will be soon. Lee Bardugo, her stories are gray, but generally happy, I guess. There's just so many things. Having flat villains is still, they can be very useful in exploring the protagonist. Yeah. What was the one I just read? Snakewood. I just read Snakewood, and I don't remember the author's name. I keep forgetting. I can look it up really quickly. No. Where was it? Oh, down here. Snakewood is by Adrian Selby. Talk about gray. I had no idea who I was supposed to be rooting for. I was like, oh, I like this character. Oh, wait, no, they're horrible. And then I thought, oh, it's got to be the princess. And then I thought, ooh, the princess is really horrible. And then I thought, well, maybe it's this guy. Oh, he's dead. Oh, well, who am I supposed to root for? That's sort of that Game of Thrones thing. It's like, oh, I like this guy. Oh, he's dead. Well, that's okay. I like this one. Oh, she's dead. Well, all right, everyone's dead. Who am I supposed to like? I mean, I'm not afraid to kill a character, but for it has to fit. It has to fit the story. It has to fit the narrative. It has to feel right. Okay, I was gonna have the mom say something. I was gonna have the mom pick it up and quick about it. I'm trying to get into kind of a vernacular. How would the mom talk? Be quick. I like to cut the B. I like to cut those little words, make it quicker, snappier. Pick it up and quick about it. Even if I don't use this here, I'm definitely going to use that. Elm asked. Okay, so the thing I really wanted to focus on today was I want to. Okay, we've got all those notes. We need her to open the pouch, and we really see the seed for the first time. That's one thing. Faye didn't have to be asked twice. Quicker than the eye could follow, she scooped up the pouch and drew it open. And then okay, here's what I like. I like the idea that she's quick. She's doing it quick. And drew it open with a violent yank. But then I'm gonna have the repetition of drew and withdrew. I'll change that later. But then withdrew the seed as if something, holding a fragile something, holding a soap bubble that might burst. Hello. I wrote yank. There we go. Quicker than the Akafashi. I like the contrast. It's mine. Oh, get it open, and then suddenly she's very careful. It is important to her, but she's also excited. She's an excited little girl, and I think this can show that might burst. Oh, I wanted to highlight Drew and Drew, so I can change that later. I wanted to ask Vinny P. Are you working on a story? I'm curious if you're writing something. If it's dark, what it's about. I'm feeling pretty good. How are you? Metrum. I don't want to say. I hate saying names on here. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Quicker than she scooted and drew it open with a violent yank, but then withdrew the seed as if holding a bubble that might burst. All Rick saw was a bumpy clod of dirt. Metrum. Okay. That makes sense. There was a person yesterday chatting, and because I'm talking about writing, I was thinking about making cuts. So their name was Cutesy Cat, but I was reading it Cutsy Cat. I was like, oh, that's a cool name. Like cut. I'm a cat, and I cut unnecessary words and things. And then I realized, no, you're so stupid. It's cutesy. Ugh. Okay, so he takes the seed out, and then all he saw was a bumpy clod of dirt. On a normal looking seed. And then how large do I want it to be? The size of a grape. That's the first thing that pops into my mind. I can change that later. I need to decide what they actually grow on their farm. And then I'll probably come back and adjust that. But it should be a good size seed. It's magical. I feel like the girl should be able to kind of cup it in her hands. I don't want it to be a tiny little thing. And then we could have another one of the children speak. Doesn't look very magical. Which kid should say that? I feel like the son would say it. Nikki. Doesn't look very magical. Oh, Nike said. Nikki. N-I-K-Y. Okay. I feel like the oldest daughter would make some kind of noise. Grunted approval. Grunted. Yeah. I'll keep it like that for now. Mari grunted approval. But Rick noticed none of his children could tear their eyes from the seed. Even Elm, flitting about the kitchen, with maybe some kind of dust rag in hand. diverted her attention from cleaning every few seconds to consider the seed from afar. That's not bad. That's a good rough draft. So we see the seed for the first time. Doesn't look very special. They're going to plant it together. I want to show a moment of tenderness between the husband and wife. She's proud of him. So really need to build up Faye's excitement. Show her being really excited. The best way to do that, an easy way to do that, would be having her say something, can we plant it now? Faye practically begged. But I also, her eyes could be pleading. Because I'm going to have to work in the physical description of all these characters. And I think the focus first should be Faye. The son, Nikki, I'm going to show his physical characteristics as he's being sent off on a chore. So as he's walking away, we can see him being a teenager, his demeanor, the way that he talks, slumped shoulders, unruly hair. I can describe all of that. So we'll focus on Faye. And then I'm naturally thinking about, can we plant it now? And then they're going to tease her. Don't reckon we can. Rick said. Why not? Faye asked. Because you haven't properly thanked your father for the gift. Elm said. I want to really show that this is a happy, loving family for the most part. I mean, they're going to have some kind of flaws. They wouldn't be very interesting if they were just, hey, we're happy and there's no problems. There's going to be some kind of problems. But for now, it's a happy thing. It's kind of a birthday party. She's getting this magic seed. They're teasing her a little bit. I can come back later and add some cracks. I mean, teenage son is its whole thing. There's plenty of tension there. Because you haven't properly thanked your father for the gift, Elm said. And then Faye would be thoroughly embarrassed that she forgot to say thank you. didn't I? Maybe she's kind of precocious. I like the idea of her calling him father. That's something I change from story to story. One story, the character will say dad or da or pa, or I got to keep it interesting for myself. Uh, didn't I? Thank you, Father. I'll change some of this later. Because my original thought was, must I? Can't you tell how much I love it? And then a strong look from Elm, who has moved into Faye's eyesight. And then Faye says, thank you, Father. And she says it kind of sheepishly. That's a good word, sheepishly. So this, in my head, I was debating which way I wanted to present the daughter. So I'm sitting here with a dumb look on my face, thinking, and I'm working my way silently in my head down all these different avenues, because do I want her to be super polite? Didn't I? Thank you, Father. Can't you tell how much I love it? Or this precocious little girl, oh, must I? Can't you tell how much I love it? And then she gets a dirty look. Thank you, Father. And then she obeys. I think the first one's more interesting. So I'll get rid of that. I think the first one's much more interesting. Must I? Can't you tell how much I love it? A strong look from Elm, who has moved into faith. Thank you, Father. And then Rick would say, what about you, Mary? Care to join us? Reckon I can. For some reason, I have this idea that she would call him by his full name. Instead of calling him Father, she would call him Rickard. Reckon I can, Rickard. I don't want there to be too much ceremony. I don't want them to sound like pilgrims. Very proper. To me, that's a nice detail. It immediately makes their relationship unique. You don't generally have children who call their parents by their names. They call them by a title. So especially for a short story, we have some immediate idea. What's this What's this character like? What happened to Vinny? I was hoping you were working on a story and that you could tell me what it was about. Maybe you had to duck out. Or what about Metrome? Are you still in here? Are you working on any stories? Can't you tell how much I love it? Strong look from Elm, who has been. Thank you, Father. What about you, Mari? Care to join us? Reckon I can, Rickard. The other thing I like about that is there's a tiny little bit of alliteration. Reckon, Rickard. Similar sounds. We have that RR. We have the double syllable. Reckon, Rickard. It just sounds nice to me. Reckon I can, Rickard. And also, she's copying him. He says, "Don't reckon we can." So that'll be something that I'll have him say, and I'll have the kids tease him about it. He always says "reckon," and especially Mary would tease him about it, building the personalities of these characters. That's another note that I want to make for myself. Have Mary constantly tease Rick about his use of reckon. So this is, I want to make sure that I mark who's talking. And I'll come back later and I'll add all of the details about what people look like when they're talking and how they're moving. It's better to just get a natural flow for the conversation for me when I'm writing. What about you, Mari? Care to join us? Reckon I can, Rickard. And then he'll send the two girls outside. Reckon you should head out. You two, some kind of cute nickname for them. You two, or he could call them monsters. Kind of a little bit of foreshadowing. Reckon you two monsters should head outside. Pick a good spot for that seed. And then I will show the girls leaving. Faye still carrying the seed, held tight against her body. Maybe something about Elm watching her and immediately cleaning up a few specks of dirt from the floor. Little specks of dust fall off the seat and she immediately cleans it up. And Mary would be... What would Mary be doing? Would she be trying to see? Would she be looking, peeking, trying to see the seed that Faye is cradling against her body? Or would Mary be Would she be racing ahead because she's the older sister? Would she be pushing her? Would she be pulling on her dress? That's not a bad idea. Mari could be pulling on Faye's clothes, which gives us an opportunity to organically introduce what she's wearing. When they're around the kitchen table, I want to focus on the faces, the facial expressions, and then they move away from the table, and then we can look at their clothing and how they move through the setting. So they're going to go outside. I also want to illustrate the view through the front door. That's where they're going. So we get our first glimpse of the farm setting. But while that's happening, the son is trying to sneak away. As for you, Rick said, throwing his voice at Nikki like a shackle. The idea that he stopping him in place. Rick said, throwing his voice at Nikki. I mean, I can work on that later. Rick said, throwing his voice at Nikki. Stopping him in place. Have you finished all your morning chores? And then the son might say, and some of the afternoon ones. Nikki said. Still not turning around. So here, yeah, as for you, throwing his video and stuff, his teenage son had been slinking away rather ineffectively. Or I like this better. His teenage son had been trying to slink away and failing rather spectacularly. The young man still hadn't grown into his body after the latest growth spurt, which Rick hoped would be the last. And I could just and so there I can describe what Nikki looks like. This transitions beautifully into what the boy looks like. Tall. He works on a farm, so he can be lanky, but he would have muscles from doing hard work all day. Have you finished? And some of the afternoon ones, Nikki said, still not turning around. Ba, 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 ba. Good. Then I reckon I don't think I'm gonna keep the I suggest you clean your bedroom. Not clear, clean. This is because of his daughter. His daughter is teasing him about him constantly saying reckon. So I'm not going to tell the reader anything about that. I'm just going to show the reader that Mary teases him, and then when he tries to talk to the son and he says, I reckon, he immediately goes, oh, wait, no, I shouldn't say that. I reckon, I suggest you clean your bedroom. So we'll know, people reading this will know. They'll say, oh, he's trying to change the way he talks. So the thing I need to focus on here is showing the upstairs setting through the son's departure. That was what I really wanted to do with this little part of the story. I want to illustrate, I want to illustrate the settings through the characters all splitting off and going about different activities. The son is going upstairs, so we can talk about the upstairs. The girls are going outside, we can talk about what he sees through the front door. The wife is going to go down into a root cellar, so we can describe that. But I also want to keep those really snappy. I want to give an impression of a setting. I don't want to give a really detailed, elaborate setting. Just enough information that readers can form their own impression. We all know what a farm looks like, and we all know what a farmhouse looks like. The root cellar, that one might be a little more unknown to some people. I don't even know what a root cellar what I would want it to look like. I would have to look it up probably. Yeah, this is what I'm thinking of. Something like this. But not like that. Yeah. Something that could be under a home, under a farm. These in the hill, those are nice. Those would be really great. Yeah, it could have some stones, it could have some boxes with different plants. Oh jeez, come on. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking of. So that's where I want the wife to go. So then I need to I'm gonna yawn. So sleepy today. I'm gonna need to show one more thing. Journey outside to the show the boy, stomping upstairs to his bedroom. Okay. 2 daughters plant the seed. See, I haven't decided. Do I want to show them planting the seed? They could already be done when he gets out there. Something I don't usually do in short stories, I usually try to have the short story be all one connected piece, and I don't put any sort of break in it. But this one, it just feels right to have breaks. I need to advance time as much as possible because it's about a plant that's growing. So I wanted to start the story with it being a seed and then it growing. But it's also a magical plant, so it can grow very quickly. I mean, it will grow very quickly. Well, okay, that's the battle. If it grows too quickly, then there's no anticipation. Whoa, what's going to happen? It's just, there's a, think about the fairy tale Jack and the Beanstalk. You plant the seeds, he wakes up in the morning, and there's a giant beanstalk. There's no mystery. Oh, what's going to happen? The mystery is all up in the clouds. What's up there? What am I going to see when I go on this journey? Whereas this story, the plant is the mystery. What's it going to turn into? What's it going to do? What's going to happen to these characters? Show Rick giving orders to the son. The boy has food stuffed in. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I was gonna have him. I was gonna have food stuffed in his face. Again, it's just a nice little bit of characterization. If I add that in there. Yeah, the boy has food stuffed in his face and talks with food in his mouth. It's also fun to write that because then you can write, instead of writing normal dialogue, you can try to write what it would sound like if someone had food in their mouth. So I'll probably have to put food in my mouth or put something in my mouth and then try to say what the character is going to say in order to approximate what that would sound like. But you don't want to do too much of that. Readers can get tired of that really quickly. You have to be really careful about it. Boy has food, talks with food in his mouth. Showing the upstairs setting. All right, that's good for now. And then I wanted a moment of tenderness between the husband and the wife. She's proud of him. I've got this. I don't think I'm going to have time. I wanted to write for 2 hours today, and it's not going to happen because my wife's homesick. So if I do this in the bedroom, we're going to hear her coughing in the background. And I can't do it. I wanted to do it in my son's bedroom, especially because there's such good light in there. But I can't get a Wi-Fi signal. It says super strong Wi-Fi signal, and every time I try to connect, it fluctuates and disappears. And my father-in-law is going to come home any minute, and he's going to come in here into the kitchen where I am, and he's going to start cooking food and banging pots around and making a lot of noise. So that's very disappointing. I really wanted to work on this more. I mean, I got about a page and a half. I mean, okay, so what would the moment of tenderness mean? Rick felt a presence behind him and leaned back into Elm's open arms. She squeezed his chest tight enough to produce a small grunt from Rick, followed by a I was thinking sigh, but that doesn't feel like the right word. When she kissed him on the cheek. Sigh feels like something that doesn't sound like something a gruff farmer would do. It could work, but that doesn't quite feel right. But I'm not sure. He could just grunt again. I think I was just reading a book where the character kind of just grunted a lot of the times, and the other character said, I understand what you're saying because I've become an expert in your grunts. Followed by a sigh when she kissed him on the cheek. And then we can have, again, the repetition of reckon. I reckon you did well. Yeah. So I don't think she needs to say that she's proud of him. That doesn't feel right. And then I'm going to show her heading out to the root cellar. Or the attic. Or both. Down into the root cellar and then all the way up to the attic. Those are her chores. Those are the places that she needs to go. So the first part of the story takes place in a market. Second part of the story takes place at the farmhouse. Through these characters, we get a clear idea of how many rooms are in this farmhouse. There's an attic, there's a second floor, there's a first floor, outside there's a garden, and a root cellar. So we have all these different locations. And then those are the ones that we'll kind of focus on as we develop the story, as the plant starts to grow, as it spreads throughout the house. We'll have the plant interact with those settings. If I want to keep it really tight, they could have chores that they do here at the beginning at each of these places, and then the plant helps them with their chores. Something that I could do with this, I had an idea. There is the old Disney movie called Fantasia, and there's the scene where Mickey Mouse is a sorcerer's apprentice and uses magic to animate a broom. That's the basic idea. He's supposed to be getting water floods because the broom just keeps going while he's sleeping. He's like doing this, and he chops it, and then it becomes many, many, many brooms. And I was inspired by that idea. I thought, what if you could have a garden or farm with plants that pick their own fruits and vegetables. So plants that would pick their own weeds, pick their own vegetables, they would take care of themselves. I could use that in this story. The magical plant could spread throughout the garden. Because I've been struggling to do anything with that idea. I started to write a short story and it ended up becoming way too long and was looking like it was going to be another novel. And it might fit better here because it really didn't fit in that story. So that's something I'll have to think about. Yeah, in fact, I think that's a great idea. I'm going to explore that. It'll be sitting in the back of my mind all day today, and I'll just kind of be thinking about that and working through it. I mean, it's a knot. It's a knot, and I just have to kind of pull it all the different bits of it and get it loose and spread it out and see what I'm actually looking at. It's a solid idea to explore, to see where it leads. So that'll be fun. All right. It's almost 12:30. So I'm going to have to stop. That's too bad. I'm glad some people came and interacted. That was great. That's the whole point. It's nice when I can just sit and focus and work on the writing, obviously, but I can do that off of stream. When I'm streaming, it's nice to hear that there are people here. It's nice to have people say hi and ask how I am and share ideas with me. These are all really good ideas from Vinny P. A lot of great stuff that I'm going to think about. Okay. Yeah, I'll stop there. So thanks for coming, and I will see everyone again later, I hope. I hope you enjoyed that video. Look in the description down below. There's a lot more that you can find. My blog, my self-published novel. I have a stream on Twitch, and there are a lot of other YouTube videos. From the Height of a Mind, I'm Mike.